integrated water resource management.
The transboundary water is pivotal for sustainable development and global water security, serving 2.8 billion people, covering 42% of the Earth's surface and flowing through 153 countries. Enhancing water cooperation over transboundary water will be crucial for a water-secure world. Managers and practitioners of transboundary water are important catalyzers to boost its cooperation. They have requested for learning opportunities on how to improve governance aspects of transboundary freshwater security. The course will cover water security, international water law, water diplomacy, institutions, management tools, and financing. The course is dynamic, engaging the world-renowned professionals and international organizations and showcasing many case studies around the world. The course is open for anyone who's interested in the subject to join. We look forward to welcoming you to the course.
Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to this 11th session of the Transboundary Freshwater Security Governance Train. My name is Yumiko Yasuda. I'm the Senior Transboundary Water Cooperation Specialist at the Global Water Partnership, and also the lead faculty of the massive open online course on governance for transboundary freshwater security, which was developed by the GWP, GFIW Learn, and many global partners and experts from the field of transboundary water. Since opening of its course in August 2020, the MOOC has attracted over 3,000 participants from 160 countries around the world, confirming the need and interest for learning about this subject. The course is available for anyone to take in its own pace, and now also translated into French, Chinese, Russian, and Spanish, and Portuguese, available in different languages. In order to enhance the learning experience and to provide opportunity for people to engage and interact with experts in the field, GWP, together with the partners, have developed an online interactive series called Transboundary Freshwater Security Governance Train. In this series, we are highlighting not only the key topics of transboundary freshwater governance, but also highlight the various examples and expertise from different geographic locations around the globe, as if the train is stopping at the different locations in the world. Today, our train will be stopping at Asia and Europe, welcoming speakers from these places. Following the successful sessions in 2021, today's session consists of the 5th event of the season 2, which we started in September. It's like a new opening of the MOOC last year. So today's session is hosted by GWP and United Nations University Comparative Regional Integration Studies, CRIS. Today's session has 2 main parts. The first part is a panel discussion by distinguished speakers where they will be sharing the experiences on the topic and answering your question that you'll be submitting through the Mentimeter. So this will be a first level of interaction. But then the second part will be even more interactive, where you can actually go to different breakouts and to go and speak to the speaker that you would like to discuss, have more questions. And so that will be a great lineup of opportunity for you to really ask directly the questions. We have a great lineup of session chairs and speakers for the next 1.5 hours. Some housekeeping rules. Please note that this online session will be recorded and will be available for you, all of you. So don't worry about it. If you miss something, you have still opportunity to watch it. Please always mute your audio during the plenary session unless you are given the floor to speak. You can unmute your audio during the breakout session, and please feel free to speak more openly there. This event will not only present a new knowledge, but will also welcome your inputs and interactive part. We really emphasize on this interactive part for this event, which is a unique addition to many existing webinars. So this is not a webinar, it's an interactive session. So we count on you to stay throughout the session. So today we'll be using a Mentimeter as a main interactive tool to make this possible interaction. Some of you have already used the Mentimeter while waiting. And so I would like now you to, if you haven't logged in, please go to this www.menti.com and use the passcode 31147841. Or you could also just click the link in the chat. I think this would brings you actually directly to our Menti site. Now we have, I can see 29 people have responded. We are around 60 people here already on this call. So I hope more of you will join. But I can see many of you are joining different parts of Africa. I also see you coming from Asia regions, many from India, actually, 4 people. Yes, I see from Middle East, Central Asia, Europe. Yeah, various parts of Europe, many from Central Europe, but also from the northern part. I also see someone joining us from North America. Really great. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's go to the next question. So here's the question. Have you joined Transboundary Water Knowledge Hub? Yes, thank you. No, okay. I hope you know about it, but Transboundary Water Knowledge Hub is an online space for the global transboundary community that was just launched last month at the end of May. It's very fresh. So we will be actually coming to explain you what it is in a few moments. My colleague Lisa will be showing you around. But we have had these online sessions and the MOOC, we've been running this MOOC for the past couple of years, and now we've also had this online session for now 11th time. And from these, we actually received a lot of demand. Like 80% of the participants told us that you want a space to communicate further. So we had actually a session to hear about your ideas. Like we had a focus group discussion back in March, and based on these inputs, we are very happy to let you know that we've opened this Transboundary Water Knowledge Hub, Exchange Hub. We really would like to have you on board. Please join the hub. You can see in the chat the link. And we will be actually using today, the first time, this hub as a post-event discussion. So today's discussion, after today's event, you can continue the dialogue on this hub. Thank you so much. I think more than half of the people know about it, and then less than half, 42% still don't know. So we will come to you. We will explain this to you in a moment. But in the meantime, please, yes, do join. So if I go to the next one. So here in today's session, if you have a question for speakers, please submit your questions in the Mentimeter. And while you're listening to the initial opening remarks from each speaker, you will be able to log your questions. You can also like it. You can also put like button to the question, and then that will be voted up. So any popular questions will come more further up. So I see nobody's yet submitted the questions, but we are very eagerly waiting to, yes, thank you so much. The first question, where do you see challenges of multi-level governance approach in general? It would be good to hear some examples from speakers in this regard. Thank you so much. If you like it, you can see now somebody clicked like, so now it's got 2 votes. After about 15-20 minutes, we will check who has submitted what, and then we will pick some of the popular questions for Q&A to start with. Great, thank you so much. What are the benefits of involving local stakeholders in transboundary disaster risk reduction activities? So yes, thank you. Please keep typing the questions as you listen to the intervention from the speakers. So now I would like to introduce you to the Transboundary Water Hub. I would like to invite my colleague Lisa, who will do that. Lisa, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Yumiko. Exactly. We have this exciting news for you. We have launched the transboundary community, and we'll just briefly walk you through it. I hope that you will explore on your own after the event and not during the event, but we're looking forward to see everyone online. So the Transboundary Water Knowledge Exchange Hub is a community on GWP Toolbox. It's our leading knowledge management platform, but it provides this amazing interactive element. It's a sort of a social media, kind of a social media, but a network that is dedicated purely to professional issues. So networking, exchanging ideas, exchanging news on the project, and your experience, of course. So when landing in the community, you can read about our rules and purposes and objectives. So the objectives of our community are to facilitate the translation of knowledge into action. And that's kind of the best way to do that, exchanging and discussing what went well and what didn't. And this community presents an interactive way to do that. You can access it wherever you are. It's free to join and open to everyone working in transboundary water. It's of course an interactive space outside of the virtual event, so you can exchange even after the Zoom event is over. And then it connects professionals on the global level to facilitate creation of new knowledge products. You will see that we have a lot of members in our hub, and you can see if you're looking for project partners or maybe looking to reach out to to a researcher in your region on a particular issue, you could search also through the members of the hub or actually through the people registered on the platform as well. And of course, we hope to foster the culture of the peer-to-peer learning so that people exchange between themselves on while either being from the same stakeholder group or from the different ones. So we make sure that you get all kind of views on the same issue, the full overview, so to speak. We have several community admins and moderators. So that's myself, Yumiko, and Tobias, our transboundary team at Global Water Partnership, and a number of partners that have been supporting us through the development of the community and will also be present there and adding their content. So that is the IHE Delft, Oregon State University, IGRAC, INBO, United Nations University CRIS, that will be co-chairing the session today, and UNESCO IHP program. Just to briefly show you what we have in our community. So of course we have our exciting stream where you will see it's going to be kind of like a news feed of all of the updates that members post on there. You will see comments and maybe some of the opportunities published by the colleagues as well. So you will see all of the news in the stream, and here you can see there's some news about other events besides the freshwater security train that we're having right now. And then if we explore a little bit more, we will see also that in the events tab, we have kind of like almost like a calendar of the upcoming events. So you can pick, if you're interested in any specific topic, you can search through the events and see more information on that. And then, of course, our post-event discussion is going to be in the discussion tab. So here you will see the first entry. And then if you go through the post, this will be where we are waiting for you after the event. One last maybe black into the community is going to be our members. So we currently have around 40 members that have already joined the hub, and they come from different institutions. The World Bank, the IHE, and different other organizations, the Wuhan Water Law Academy, for example. So we're looking forward to see you. And when you land in the community, you need to click the button joined. See, I'm already part of it. But you click the button join, and then you can see much more content, because some of our content is only for the members. But we are really looking forward to see your comments and inputs. Thank you so much. I will be handing over to Yumiko, and I think that my colleagues have also posted the link to the community in the chat. If something doesn't work out, please let us know in the chat, or you will find in the about the email where you can ask for more support. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And if you can actually show a little bit on the top of the screen, there is actually a translation button, right, Lisa, there. So you can select the language And there are all kinds of languages. So then you can select, so you will, it's not limited to English interaction. I see on the chat somebody was asking if we could translate. So hopefully for this discussion, it will be convenient for you. This event itself is, this time is an English only event, but I hope that you can follow us. Some of our colleagues can speak French. I believe Lalisa, who just spoke, can speak French. So if you go to the breakout room with her, she can help you to translate your questions to the speakers. So thank you so much. Now I would like to go to the meat of today's session, so we can start the main session. And please do keep typing in your questions in the Mentimeter. I'm very, very happy to introduce Professor Dr. Nidhi Nagabatra. She's the chair of today's session, and we have been collaborating in really bringing this event to today. So thank you so much, Nidhi. She's a senior fellow and a cluster coordinator at Nature Climate Health United Nations University, CRIS in Belgium. Nidhi is a sustainability science specialist and systems analyst with more than 20 years of work experience, and she's led, coordinated, and implemented many water-focused projects in Asia, Africa, Europe, and Americas, working with many international organizations in CZIR, UNU, IUCN, and so on. She has many affiliations, including Oxford University, Leipzig University, and also adjunct professor at Macalester University in Canada, and so on. I won't go into too much detail. This is also available. Information is available in our hub. But the most important thing is, of course, is the fun fact. So the fun fact of Nidhi is that she loves the wildlife expeditions, but she is scared of house bugs. So sounds like she just needs to be all the time outdoors, not indoors. Her biggest achievement in life is to sustain, is to change, to adapt, and to co-create a sustainable future for all. Very beautiful word. Thank you so much, Nidhi. So without ado, I would like to hand over to Nidhi to give an overall presentation to set the scene of today's topic on the multi-level governance for transboundary water, climate and disaster management and risk governance. Thank you. Nidhi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Yumiko, and welcome to everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, based on where you are joining us from. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Let's get started then. And today we are going to discuss about multi-level governance. This has roots in the European Union, European research, because 30 years of scholarship on the topic, and there are many experts who have joined us who are participating with us today, who can also intervene and sort of comment on that. I'll point to my colleague Frank, for example. This multi-level governance was mostly discussed in the context of European Union's regional integration plans, European integration plans, and I will point here in the context of time to Maastricht Treaty of 1992, if you want to know the more theoretical underpinnings of multi-level governance. Overall, the concept has emerged as supporting regional and international relations and a public policy discourse, and is finding its way slowly into natural resource management, be it water management, climate governance, etc. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. What is it? What is the structural component of MLG in short? Structural component is primarily vertical and horizontal relationships between different actors, institutions, and experts, communities in the context of transboundary settings, basins, sub-basins, actors and agencies, and stakeholders who are directly or indirectly impacted and benefited from these shared water resource systems. So MLG is trying to put them all together so that coordination, cohesiveness, collaboration can be boosted. It's more of a conceptual framework, but it can be tailored to a particular context, and we'll discuss how. And communal decision-making is very integral to this integration that MLG proposes. And I will also close with taking you to a new project that UNU is leading. GWP is contributing in several formats, and there we are looking into more detail how it can be operationalized in the context of disaster risk management in transboundary basins. Next slide, please, very quickly. I'll give you some examples of how gaps and needs in MLGs have been pointed by the emerging scholarship on the subject. I'll take your attention to this case study from Indonesia, where one of the scholars have used it in an urban context. Because of the flexibility, the modalities of MLG can be adapted, but some of these modalities remain common and very much reflecting the transboundary connection, be it information gap, be it capacity gap, be it funding gap. So there are these common elements of making MLG work. In the terms of other example from a recent European project Tentacle that was applied in the Baltic region on the MLG principles, one interesting component that the project highlighted was the role of civil societies in forming these different loops between horizontal and vertical structures at the governance scales and levels. So the role of civil society, the role of communities, the role of individual experts, and also the role of markets. And markets also remain significant in the water sector, as water is directed and allocated to municipalities, but also to industries and other sectors. Next slide, please. And another two key examples, I'll tell you about some challenges and potential so that we can start to understand how MLG can be a potential tool for boosting transboundary water governance. A recent work that points out the complexities of scalar dimensions. You know, we all understand that in transboundary shared water systems, there are intersectionalities, there are multi-scalar operations administratively, institutionally, and also on different management scales. These vertical and horizontal interlinkages at supranational to subnational levels allows or sometimes presents a barrier for MLG to operate. And the scalar dimension points to a sort of a nuanced gap. There, at the basin scale, maybe the states have agreed to a harmonious agreement or arrangement to share common water. But at the sub-basin scale, the governance of such or the implementation of such agreement negotiated at the supranational level remains very much dependent on the technical capacity, on the data, information, and knowledge capacity of stakeholders on the ground. So these gaps are also posing challenges to the implementation of MLG. In terms of the potential avenues, we see that if we are able to understand where these leakage points are, which is like what are the roles, competencies, delegation of authority, the power dynamics between supranational and subnational, or let's call it basin to sub-basin levels, then we will be able to fill those gaps. For example, at a national level or a basin scale, maybe the actors are interacting, the stakeholders are interacting, but at the sub-basin or the micro level, we need to have more cohesive collaborations, more cohesive and interactive working, more channels that connect them to the data and the information, nodal points. So these are potential avenues if we fix those gaps. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Nidhi. Your 5 minutes is up.
Yeah. Next slide is just about saying thank you, Yumiko, and others for organizing this session and taking your attention to joining us in July in our Flood Knowledge Summit, one of our projects that will take this topic and this discussion on transboundary water governance using multi-level governance approaches to the next level. So inviting you all to join us. I'll paste the link in the chat also. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nidhi, for really laying out the ground for today's discussion on this multi-level governance. I think we have heard it can be at all different levels of interventions that one needs to take place in the management in this transboundary water context. So that's the main focus of today's event. So now I'm very happy to introduce you to 3 distinguished speakers from the global to basin to local. So Hannah from the UNECE, Helen from the ICPDR, and Shawahid from the India Environmental Law Organization. So if you can go next, yes. So Hannah, Ms. Hannah Plotnikova, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. She is an Environmental Affairs Officer at the UNECE Convention on the protection of use of transboundary water and lakes and international lakes, which is often called the Water Convention. She's working at the Secretariat as being responsible for the program area on climate change and adaptation, including flood and drought management in the transboundary basins. Before joining the Water Convention, she was managing regional project focused on climate change adaptation and transboundary water cooperation in Eastern Europe. So she's very much expert on this today's topic on the floods, dry climate change in transboundary context. So the fun fact of Hannah is that she likes jumping in the puddles with her husband and daughters. And her biggest achievement in life is that she's graduated from the University of Oxford with Master of Science in Biodiversity, Conservation and Management. So great, welcome Hannah. Our second speaker is going to be Helen Maslia Gilcaro. She is a technical expert for public participation and communication at the International Commission for Protection of the Danube River, ICPDR. She's in charge of the technical support of ICPDR on issues related to public participations, as well as coordinating all the communications activities and so on. She's also a political scientist and specialist in international relations and trained in the international universities abroad. She's also a strong advocate for public participation. And her fun fact is that Helen has put stand-up paddling. She's put this stand-up paddling from the Black Forest to Black Sea on her bucket list. So very curious to see how she's going to do that or when she's going to do that. So for those who are interested to speak with her, you can go to her and ask this question in the breakout maybe. Her biggest achievement in life is the still work in progress, still following the Danube waves. So great to have you, Helen. The third speaker is Shawahik Siddiqui. He's a founding partner of Indian Environmental Law Organization. Shawahik is a people's environmental lawyer engaged in a lot of riverine community in South Asia to represent their issues in the courts and outside. And Shawahik specializes in water law and has worked extensively on improving policy, legal and institutional framework on water governance at the national and subnational levels in India, highlighting the cause of marginalized rivers and modernization of water agreements and treaties in South Asia in the main focus of his work. He's also teaching on hydrodiplomacy at Foreign Services Institute, Ministry of External Affairs, the government of India, and is a trainer at a guest faculty to the National Water Academy, Central Water Commission and India Gandhi National Forest Academy. The fun fact is that Shawahik is scared of pets. So that's interesting. I want to know if he's scared of all the pets. And biggest achievement in life is that he does not believe in such a thing. So it sounds like everything is a big achievement for him, and it's more to come, perhaps. Maybe somebody who's interested in what he really means by this can go to choose the breakout to talk directly with him about this. So we are really great to have these three great speakers. Let us then now start with the first speaker, Hannah, to give us an insights from the global level on this topic. Hannah, the floor is yours.
Hello, dear colleagues. I hope you can hear and see me.
Yes, we can hear and see you very well.
Thank you. As mentioned, my name is Hannah, and I am responsible for the area on climate change adaptation in transboundary basins under the Water Convention. First of all, I would like to mention that actually climate change doesn't recognize borders, and at the same time, more than 60% of freshwater flow is located in transboundary basins. Therefore, transboundary cooperation is crucial to address floods and droughts more efficiently, and also to better adapt to climate change. I would like also to add that the Water Convention is a nutshell provides a unique global legal and intergovernmental framework for transboundary cooperation in climate change adaptation including flood and drought management. And in particular, the Water Convention has been supporting countries and basins for more than 15 years in this area through capacity building, exchange of experience, developing guidance and projects on the ground. And today, referring to the topic of our event, I would like to speak about one of examples of such guidance, namely about the Words into Action implementation guide for addressing water-related disasters and transboundary cooperation. Thank you for putting the link into the chat. And this guide is focused on integrating disaster risk management with water management and climate change adaptation in transboundary basins. Actually, it is an official guidance, which was developed by UNDR in cooperation with UNEC and other partners to implement the Sendai framework in transboundary basins. But it also refers to other international commitments, such as the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals. This guide is focused on such communities as, of course, disaster risk reduction and water management community, mainly for water management, for water managers and institutions, and for DR institutions on different levels, like local, basin, regional, and international level. But it can be also useful for other stakeholders, such as water users from other sectors, for example, industry, energy, agriculture, etc. And well, the guide itself provides recommendations on how to develop and implement disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation strategies in transboundary context. So just a few recommendations from this, that there is a need to have, of course, joint goals on the basin level, and to understand the role of river basin organizations, because they can play a very crucial role in this process. Also, there is a need to involve various stakeholders in the basin. And another important point is sharing data, therefore developing of joint modeling and vulnerability assessment is of particular importance. There is a need also to agree on priority adaptation measures and disaster risk reduction measures on the basin level. However, when it comes to implementation, a lot of measures still can be implemented on the country level, but in this case, coordination between various countries, the riparian countries, is needed. And of course, it is important to share costs and benefits and to evaluate and monitor the process together. I would like to add that actually this guide includes quite a lot of case studies from different basins. A lot of them belong to the global network of basins working on climate change adaptation, which is coordinated by the Water Convention and International Network of Basin Organizations. And these basins provided some feedback to this guide, which we are going to consider while we will be developing a new online toolkit on best practices in climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction. Thank you a lot for your attention, and happy to contribute to this event and to further discussions.
Thank you very much, Hannah, for giving that overall context and introducing us to the guide. As a colleague have already provided the link to this guide, so I hope you can access it and have a look at it. And I'm sure it's also available in different languages, perhaps. Okay, so I will now go to the next speaker. Helen, please join us. Now we heard like a global guideline and how that approaches this multi-level governance in this context. Now we want to hear from the basin level. interventions. Tell us what the Danube is, what is happening in the Danube. Please, the floor is yours, Helen.
Thanks, Yumiko, actually, and good afternoon, everyone. A lot of things happening in the Danube. So firstly, if I can ask you to show the next slide, I'd like to show you where we are. So we are here in the most international river basin in the world. The Danube River Basin covers 800,000 square kilometers and 10% of continental Europe. It extends into the territories of 19 countries, and that makes it the most international river basin in the world. If you click again on the slide, there's actually a little exactly, that's the subtitle. So about 79 million people reside in the basin, and many of them are depending on its diverse uses, such as the diverse uses of the water of that basin, such as drinking water, energy production, agriculture, and transport. Its ecological diversity from plant and animal species to habitats is also highly valued. And I'll show you on the next slide that the ICPDR constituency is comprised of 9 EU member states and 5 non-EU member states, plus the European Union. Now, if we look at the next slide, we will see that these countries, all these countries work together, but how does that transboundary cooperation on water management happen effectively? It happens through the ICPDR, which serves as the platform for transboundary cooperation on water management, in charge of the implementation of our convention that established the ICPDR, the Danube River Protection Convention, but also the coordination of the implementation of the EU Water Framework Directive since 2000. And what we're going to be focusing on today is the EU Floods Directive since 2007. Now, the next slide, I'll very briefly explain what the aim is of the EU Floods Directive. It is to reduce and manage the risks that floods pose to human health, the environment, cultural heritage, and economic activity. The management unit is the hydrological river basin. The directive also foresees the development of flood risk management plans, and these happen in 6-year management cycles, and public participation is a requirement of the directive. Exactly. So as you can see, our Danube River Basin covers quite a lot of territory, and in technical terms, a river basin is the area of land from which all the water flows into a particular river, into a particular sea. And in our case, it's the Danube River flowing into the Black Sea. So within a river basin, there are various and partly contradicting uses, rights, and claims that emerge, and these have to be coordinated and negotiated. So the ICPDR serves as the coordinating platform to address these multilateral issues, and we do that at the roof level, meaning at the international and basin-wide level in the Danube, in what you call the Danube River Basin District, the DRBD. Our governance model is simple, that you can see on the rooftop triangle. It shows that there's a division between vertical and horizontal coordination. Vertical coordination is between the countries, and horizontal cooperation is at the roof level, and it is the responsibility of the ICPDR. And we work with as I said, from the directive, dictated by the directive, a 6-year management cycle. And the outcome of our governance model is the Danube Flood Risk Management Plan. We also have a similar document for the Danube River Basin Management Plan, that's being published simultaneously, but that's a topic for another time when I have more time to discuss these issues. On the next slide, you will see that this Danube Flood Risk Management Plan, as I said, is updated every 6 years. It focuses on the assessment and management of flood risks in the Danube River Basin, and it offers rich and comprehensive information about flood risk management measures to be taken in the Danube River Basin. And on the next slide, you see floods are natural phenomena. They have shaped natural landscapes, created habitats, and supported ecosystems in floodplains, wetlands, and other lowlands since time immemorial. They are impossible to prevent entirely, although measures may be taken to reduce their frequency and the damage they cause. So the Danube Flood Risk Management Plan sets objectives that focus on the reduction of the potential adverse consequences of flooding for human health, for the environment, cultural heritage, and economic activity. And these objectives address all aspects of flood risk management, focusing on prevention, protection, and preparedness. If you can Show the next slide. Thank you, including flood forecast and early warning systems and taking into account the characteristics of the Danube River Basin. So the measures described in the DFRMP, as we call it, the Danube Flood Risk Management Plan, focus particularly on prevention, protection, and preparedness. Prevention, for example, that could mean preventing damage caused by floods, by avoiding construction of houses and industries in flood-prone areas, adapting future development to the risk of flooding, protection, meaning taking measures to reduce the impact of floods in a specific location, including the restoration of floodplains and wetlands, and preparedness. This could include awareness-raising activities and the provision of practical information to the public on what to do in the event of flooding, for example, by making flood risk maps available. That will be the end of my presentation. I think there is no time for the slides that will follow, but it's my time to say thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Helen, for a great presentation and also keeping to the time. The slide will be available after the event. And also I want to highlight that she is speaking about the Danube and also this work, public participation in the module 4 and 5 of the MOOC. So some of you can also follow that if you're interested. So thank you so much, Helen. Now I would like to go to the next speaker, the final speaker, Jawahik. Please, the floor is yours.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So, very good evening from New Delhi, India. I'll not tell you the technical elements. I'll just narrate two stories from this part of the world, which find or resonate, which are similar or resonate across the GBM basin, which is one of the largest basins in the world, both in terms of size and scale. So I'm not a technical person. You can see the numbers and details in the area, and the information is there. What I'll be talking is the issue and how as practitioners, how have we experienced the multi-level governance at work or at play. So the patent knowledge and understanding is that we are a region in South Asia in terms of sharing river and fresh water. We are logged into each other's intestine, so as knit as possible. So from Himalayas up to the base, we are connected, and we've got fantastic open borders, especially with Nepal and Bangladesh. So that is the geographical context. In terms of the governance, we know that. So the case study I picked up is between India and Nepal, and I'll stick to it and probably demonstrate from this. So between India and Nepal, almost every large river system is covered with a water-centric agreement. Barrage-centric agreement. So we're only talking structures and barrages. These can hardly be called water cooperation agreements. There is a mention of flood control in the preamble of these agreements, but there is no mechanism. If you scroll through the provisions, there is no mechanism to deal with flood event or the disasters in case they occur. So there is simply an overconfidence in the barrages. Now, my work has been focused on how do we improve them, and two, what about rivers which are not covered and under the water agreements between the two sovereign countries? I have called them marginalized rivers and the people as marginalized riverine communities. So the first story that I'm going to share with you is a story of a river called Khardo River between India and Nepal. You see the picture. What used to happen was this river used to bring massive floods in every monsoon, and people in the downstream India, what they did, they built a bund on a no man's land. You can understand the legal complexity. It is neither a territory of Nepal nor India. It is a no man's land, and the bund was created. This had inundated several villages upstream of Nepal, and violent conflicts occurred. This kept happening. Administration has to come into picture. Next slide, please. With the support from DFID, what we did, we created something called Indo-Nepal Community Water Dialogue. And we initiated dialogue involving very respected people. Important to note that the headmasters and headmistresses of important colleges in both the countries were involved. You can see women there, and the village heads were involved, respectable people were involved. And with that Indo-Nepal community dialogue, we sort of charted a peaceful path out in terms of who needs to talk to whom and how this could be resolved. The idea was that we have to remove the bund and go for more feasible option in terms of mitigating the flood, in terms of catchment management, etc. This resulted into a large Indo-Nepal meeting. Hundreds and hundreds of people came from the villages. We have had sarpanches making announcement, we'll remove the bund. Money was also allocated from village funds to do catchment protection, etc., etc. The process has been documented in a issue brief, which is at the extreme right. This is a story where downstream bunds and floods the upstream and does the action on their own. No law to cover, no treaty to talk about it. Sovereigns do not address this river at all, which is a fairly large river, and therefore what people can do is exemplary. That people can come together and sort of have district level people, village people, and others. Next slide, please. This is a different story where upstream dries up the downstream. So what happened in Nepal in 2010-11? This is a river called Pandai. This is a story which is picked up widely internationally also. So this Pandai river was blocked and bunded by temporary bunds by villages in Nepal, and they did not allow a stream of water to trickle down to villages in India. 11 villages went completely dry. Violent conflicts happened, deaths happened, police cases were launched. Again, under the same program, we picked up this village in terms of bringing people together, oriented them on the progressive elements of international water law in terms of UNWC, etc., etc. Of course, there were limitations. And then in terms of, we brought the people together. Thousands of people came, especially from the downstream villages. 100-year-old map was brought in terms of how this river was shared between people. And then the community innovation happened here. And this river, as it came down, was divided. I'll just take half a minute. Was divided into, just trifurcated, where one stream went to Nepal, two streams trickled down to India. But still, it is not sufficient because it is able to address the bare minimum needs, but not the irrigation needs, the crop. Next slide, please. We have continued the dialogue last year with the support, of course, from GWP also, and the process is documented. We would like to continue to resolve these conflicts on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahik, for giving us a great overview for another big basin from Asia region, and also showing us how actually community level work also in this multi-level governance context. So now we have the next about 13 minutes for the panel discussion, and I'm going to hand over to the chair of the event, Nidhi, to chair this session. Please, Nidhi.
Thank you again, Yomiko, and thank you all the panelists for giving us a nice overview at the global, regional, subnational, national level. Now we have some nice questions from the participants, but before that, before we go into addressing them, maybe I'll put the most common question on the floor for you to give a very brief overview. Do you reckon or acknowledge that multi-level governance processes, approaches, structures, and framework have a potential to enhance and boost the transboundary water governance? And if you see that happening, what challenges in particular do you identify in your specific context and regions? I mean, you've already touched upon it largely, but if you want to point out a very specific challenge, like are communities able to really put their view on in these big high-level forums? Are they able to understand the cost and the benefit of a particular intervention? For Shavik, maybe from a Danu perspective, how involved are communities on how you're ensuring that they are also a part of that there are some capacity interventions in place to make them aware of the risk perceptions related to floods. From our colleague from UNEC, I want to pose a question related to MLG. What are the kind of challenges in making these global governance tools a buy-in from member states? Do you see that they are integrating, plugging in these guidelines in their national, regional policies? And then I'll take some questions from our participants in the next round. Maybe Shavik, you want to start, or maybe in the order of global, regional, local?
Yeah. Fine with me.
Maybe Shawahid can go ahead first.
Shall we start then? Yeah, okay.
Right. Okay. So two issues that we have found very pertinent in terms of mainstreaming multi-level governance. One is recognition. Second is legitimacy. Now, recognition of what communities do in order to, or when they self-manage the disasters, or when they self-manage floods or cooperation, there is very little recognition up in the verticals. Second is what they do is not legitimized. So in the two cases that I discussed, it's still to be acknowledged that that bund has been removed and some kind of recognition has to come. So therefore, the formal mechanisms do not recognize the informal or community level mechanisms which are at play on a daily basis. Now, this is a region in South Asia, as I said, where there is a complete interdependence, both in terms of resources and also in terms of cooperation. If they do not, they will not survive. So that is there, but recognition and legitimacy is something which we find hard to difficult. Another thing that bewilders us, that being part of all international conventions, there is a fair acknowledgement of decentralized governance in the national policies of all the South Asian countries, or at least the GBM countries. Now, the question is very similar to federalism. Once you observe federalism in a national context and all environmental instruments recognize the role of communities, it's a step short of recognizing same institutions at the grassroots level, at a level up in a transboundary cooperation. So that is something, I think that's a gap that needs to be bridged in our understanding, that how do you bring the local, how do you legitimize and acknowledge the role of local institutions in international governance?
Who would like to intervene next? Helen or Hannah?
I would just like to say something from the sort of from the Danube Basin. I think it's also very challenging. I think recognition and legitimacy is not our problem anymore, because we have this this guiding directive, which gives us the mandate, the legal mandate to act. But I would say that the coordination between the countries, the vertical coordination that I was referring to earlier, is probably the most challenging. The horizontal coordination, what's on the level of the ICPDI, is much easier. But we're working on it. You know, I mean, floods is an issue that's at regional level, at national level, at municipality levels. I mean, you have so many different actors involved. But the countries are really working hard on showing best practices, on sharing their know-how, on sharing what they're doing. So I think I'm very hopeful, and I think it's looking very good, but I would say that that is still the challenge. I mean, how do you do it? Such a large basin. You have 14 countries, you know, you have a different history, you have different activities, different, and that would mean we, in the ICPDR system, we do not get involved in what the national legislation does. So but it's still very important to see that at least the countries have agreed to also share their knowledge, their national flood risk management plans, their own examples. So this is where there is still work in progress, I would say. Thanks.
Thanks, Helen. Hannah.
Well, based on our experience and particularly on the global network of basins working on climate change adaptation, I would say that different basins and river basin organizations, regardless the level of development of the countries, still face similar challenges, such as, for example, capacity of the river basin organizations, because they have to do a lot of things in different areas and they still have a limited capacity. This also relates to financing, especially financing transboundary climate change adaptation, because a lot of climate funding is still focused on the national level. And then I would also support that in a country coordination, including intersectoral coordination, because apart from transboundary cooperation, there is also a great need for intersectoral cooperation within the country to get some efficient results on the transboundary level. And maybe last but not least, it is very good when there is a legal arrangement, but there are basins which don't have legal arrangement, and it also takes time. I mean, both processes to develop such regional arrangement and then to revise. If, for example, the transboundary arrangement was developed quite some time ago, and there is a need to revise or to develop some additional amendments. Thank you.
Thank you all. Now I'll take the most voted question, one of the most voted from our participants. They want to know, how do you stimulate or how do you trigger public participation in such affairs? And if you might want to give an example, do you hold some capacity building exercises? Do you reach out to ground level stakeholders? And how, what are the benefits do you see of public participation in these regional, sub-regional, transboundary water governance mechanisms, especially within the MLG, multi-level governance context? It's open to all the panelists, whoever wants to take it first.
I don't know if it's possible to show one of the slides that I couldn't show before, but there's one slide that says it all. Yumiko, will you share it or should I?
Yes, we can show. Lisa, can you do that?
It's the slide of, yeah, it's the one before actually. Exactly. For me, this says it all. The Danube River Basin, and just like any other basin in the world, is full of heroes and heroines, of people who really work around the clock to solve the problems that we have in our basin, to apply policy. And these are not only just our constituency, our people, but these are also, it's very important, I would say, our observer organizations. They are sort of this connective tissue that help us connect with the communities. Plus, and then if you go to the next slide, I'll explain more. Yeah, we want to make the public care. And how do we make the public care? We use triggers, emotions, images, messaging. This is very important. But these are all based on real life examples. We're not making up anything. We're just making the information accessible. And that works through the public consultation, public participation and public consultation requirements. Every 6 years, we publish our plans and they are open for the public to comment. And that works with really a wide array of avenues that we use. We use a public consultation questionnaire. We have a stakeholder workshop. We take comments in writing. We are really making sure that everyone has their say and understand that they can have their say. I mean, the directive says that we have to be transparent and that we have to make sure that the public is being informed. And we go the extra mile, we inform them and we get their input. If you look on the ICPDR website, you will see that the results of the public consultation are published online, that you can see what type of comments we received and what our reaction and how we've changed the plan according to the comments that we received. So that's very important. Public consultation is truly vital in this kind of processes. Thank you. That's what I wanted to add.
Would other panelists like to intervene as well?
Yeah, Nidhi, if I may.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, sir.
In the language, if in the global language, in the language of suppose, for example, IWRM in a transboundary basin, there is a recognition that IWRM itself assumes participation and consultation, without which you cannot implement your SDGs. So no SDG can be successful on the ground unless you have communities involved. So that's the global basis of how things have been conceptualized. Legally, if you look at, we have mechanisms of impact assessments where you go and consult a stakeholder so as to ensure that not much damage happens in terms of whatever is being planned or from the natural causes. Now, putting these two together, if you look at what stakes people have, I mean, these are the people who have got vested interests, who can protect the basin and its ecosystem services in a way that they are there to ensure intergenerational equity and international law, both upstream and downstream. So the disaster mitigation, risk reduction, ecosystem services can all be managed only when people are involved. There is no government which has got the capacity to manage such large basin on its own. Governments have limited agendas. At least in this part of the world, we see that agreements move from issue to issue. Either they are about quantified volumetric water sharing, or they are about the regimes are parallel. Flood forecasting is out of water cooperation. Volumetric water sharing is a different set of cooperation. Trade is a different set of cooperation. In all of this, nowhere we find people, nowhere we find ecosystems, and nowhere we find voices that get underrepresented in this entire scheme of agreements. So therefore, I think there is a lot of benefits which can be drawn from involving people. Where governments have limitations, I think people and institutions can come and play their role so that the principle of intergenerational equity is ensured.
Thank you so much. Hannah, you have something to add here?
Maybe just very brief that, well, for sure, public participation is an integral part of river basin management planning, and it cannot be efficient without it. And maybe it is also important to involve different target groups. For example, in one of our pilot projects, like in the Dniester Basin and in the Chutalas, the journalist community was actively involved, passing the message to the wider audience. And also, it is, of course, important to work with civil society organizations, which can attract more attention, and even from the youth and from children. For example, some summer schools focused particularly on the issues in the Dniester Basin were organized for children and youth from both countries, Moldova and Ukraine. And this was very efficient also because the youth and children is our future. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, again for your very appropriate intervention. The next interesting question coming from a participant is
Nidhi, sorry to interrupt, but our time is up actually. So let us continue this Q&A in the breakout session.
I like that idea. Let's do that.
Yes, thank you so much, Nidhi, for chairing this session, and all the panelists for great answers. So now, I know there are many still questions to be answered, but we are now going into the breakout session, so you can directly ask these questions to your speakers. You can choose who you want to ask the questions to. So the room 1 will be Helen and myself. Sorry, actually, I'm supposed to be here in this room. So this slide is a little bit wrong. I think Helen is, room 1 would be actually Nidhi. Who, if you want to have a question to Nidhi, and Helen would be in this room. If you want to ask questions to Helen, you can stay here. If you want to ask questions to Nidhi, go to the room 1. If you want to ask questions to Shawahik, please go to room 2. And then if you want to ask questions to Hannah, please go to room 3. And you will see now at the bottom, I think our tech host, have you opened the breakout? Yes, please open the breakout. Yes, it's open now. You can choose the room. And if you don't know how to go, yes, just type the room number, and then our tech host will transfer you to the right rooms. I think still we see almost 60 people staying here. Please choose your room. If you don't know how to do that, just type the number of the room that you want to go to, or the name of the speaker, and then our tech host will bring you there. Okay, I see people are typing the room numbers, so please keep doing that. But while people are jumping to the room, this room is for room to ask questions to Helen. And of course, you can ask me also questions about the MOOC general, if you have any. So now we see some people still staying here, and I assume now many of you are interested to have questions to Helen. So let us start. So this is a very open conversation. So Helen, thank you so much. I'm really glad that you managed to utilize all of the slides that you have nicely prepared in this session. So anyone would like to ask questions to Helen, anything about anything on the Danube, on the public participation or any aspects? Or if Helen, if you would like to say something, just reflecting on the conversation we just had, you can perhaps start with your comments if you have any.
Sure, Yumiko, thanks. It seems I see that the number of participants is moving, is decreasing by the second, but now it seems to be stable. So I'm happy to start and to say, first of all, that thank you for having me and for this really interesting panel. I mean, this is very, very exciting. And I would say that, yeah, I can only repeat what's been said, that everyone is an actor in our common destiny. In a shared river basin. That means that everyone's got a role to play and everyone can get engaged, can get involved. Once you understand what are issues, once you understand how important it is for your daily life, then you get more involved, and then by being informed, you become an advocate, and you are more involved in the life of your river basin. I mean, there are 7 and 9 million people, and we would love to reach all of them through our work, but it's not always possible. So as I said, there are some public participation measures that we take, and we make sure that we get the public information out there. So we inform the public and we consult them. That's a very interesting cycle. First, we sort of make sure that the information gets out there, and then we try to see how the information is being accepted and how the public reacts to it. And then the public need to be informed. I think the biggest challenge that we have is also the complexity of the information. So now it's always the same story. I mean, it's always been like that between communications people who want the world out there to hear about everything, and then the more technical people who feel that by translating their information, we might be forgetting some content on the way. So that's a tough work. You have to really read a lot and to try to understand a lot. But at the end of the day, this information is being produced for the benefit of the public and for the generations, for the future generations. And that's very important. I mean, it's part of the directives, but it's also part of our work, and we see that it works and that it really has an amazing effect on people. I mean, they are really federalizing events, for example, like Danube Day on the 29th of June, where we celebrate the signing of the Danube River Protection Convention. And we are talking about 30,000 people throughout the basin who get involved, who get our branded pretty Danube Day bags, and who feel that for a few days, some countries even extend the festivities over several days, and that makes a whole lot of difference. I mean, all of a sudden, you know, our commission is still small while we're serving a large basin. We are the secretariat of the ACPD has a staff of 10 people barely. So how can you reach everyone? So it's the importance of the governance, it's the importance of the involvement, and it's the importance of the public participation. And it's the importance of each and every one of us working for the future generations, because that's what matters.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Helen. So if anyone has any questions to this, please raise your hand. I see Helen raising hand. And so first we'll go to Helen. And if anyone has questions, please raise the hand. I hope you know the raise the hand button. Helen, go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. It's nice to meet you, Helen, again. I took a course from 1 year ago. So it's really, I really found this public participation important, and how you shared the work. It has been really nice to see how I could, as a student, because I'm doing master program in water management. So the public participation, one key tool, let's see, to use. But I would like to see in your practical experience, do you see a need to reevaluate or rethink the actual frameworks or tools in place for the public participation. I see we are more demanding with a complex and dynamic, and especially we young people are being more pressured, and we are seem to be more interested. How in your, I'm just interested to hear your practical experience, because I know how in theory how it should be, the public participations, the formalities around it, and yeah, just I'm very interested to know from the practical point of view, how do you understand the public participation, even though you already mentioned it's
Sure,
not
sure.
possible to reach everyone.
That's an excellent question, and I'm glad you still remember what I said a year ago. So it's a very good sign, at least. I would say that you have a very good point here, because the youth, the younger generation, is more involved, and we're very happy about that. Because we want to involve more people. We want to make sure that we really at the pulse of time, which requires, I have to say, extra additional efforts on our end. We've got to be more responsive. We've got to be quicker. Social media, for example, is a very important tool for us. We started about 2.5 years ago. I mean, I'm using social media because this is where young people get most of the information. And I've really realized that, like I said, we've got to be more responsive, but on the other hand, it's so gratifying to see that young people, that people in general are getting more interested in what we're doing. I mean, I give you the example, we are constantly revising our practices because we feel that there's a constant need to adapt. The world communications are going very fast. What's also very important is to make sure that we are giving the information, we're giving the right information, that it's true. I mean, there's so much circulating online, so the science has to be verified. That's very important. And what we also did, for example, for the last public consultation, the stakeholder consultation questionnaire, we translated it in all the Danubian languages, and we made sure that the questions were very easy to understand. And we tried to also work with universities and with other stakeholders to make sure that exactly people like you out there get the information, have their say. And by sending out this questionnaire and by having the public fill it in, we also we didn't just want to teach people things about what we're doing. We wanted to also see where the knowledge gap was. Is there an area where you don't know anything, that you don't know anything about? And actually the area of floods is what we realized, that there is somehow, I wouldn't say less interest, but we saw that in the questionnaire, people actually answered questions only until the first or second question related to floods. So this is where we are wondering what should be changed, and we're working on it, really on working with people on the ground. So remarks like yours are very important. Please, whatever suggestions you have, drop me an email. Tell me what you think would be of interest for you, where we would need to work more. That's how we improve our work, and that's how we make sure that everyone's involved, and that's how we make sure that this ongoing, this living process of public participation gets improved. I hope that answers your question, Helen.
Yes, you answered, and it's really nice to see that you take this bilateral communication. You also want to hear from people, because sometimes we are assuming that there is no awareness, but actually they have. So I will not take more time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen. I see 2 hands up. So let's start.
Can I come in? Yeah, Dorji.
Okay. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, so wonderful presentation, Helen. My question is, because you mentioned about this Danube, you got around 14 to 19 countries. So how you arrive the distribution of water among these countries, and how you assure that the agreed amount of water each country is getting, and how you are routing the flood during the flood time among all these countries.
Yes, thank you. Helen, if I can take more questions, and then you can answer all of them. So Frank, would you like to open your mic and ask a question?
Yes, sure. Thank you for giving me the floor. I have a question which came up through the map that you showed, because there are some member states that are fully covered by the basin, and there are some member states which only have like parts of their country that is or territories that is concerned. And there seems to be some countries, if I saw correctly, like Switzerland, that have a little bit but are not part of the scheme. And so I was wondering. Especially the bigger countries like Germany or others who only have one part of the territory concerned, does it make sense to involve them at the federal state level? So speaking of multi-level governance, or is it then something more where it makes more sense to go to sub-national regions, provinces, or whatever the entities are, so that because the federal level might be less concerned or might have less authority in those matters? Thank you.
Thank you. So Helen, over to you to answer this question.
Okay, so I'll try to answer in the way I received the question. So the first question regarding the country level action. So the countries are, this is very important. This is what I showed in my slide. The roof level is us, but the countries, the vertical level is really the countries among themselves. So we do not get involved in what they do. What we do, however, emphasize in the ICPDR is the solidarity principle. When there's flooding, you don't just go and get rid of your water problem by opening the dikes and letting the water go down to all your neighbors and not thinking what's going to happen to them. So that's very important. And this is the solidarity principle is something that all the ICPDR countries have agreed on, and this is like a governing principle for them. So I would say that this is much more something that we are working on. Like I said, these are the challenges on national level. I mean, think about it, floods is just generally a very, very complex issue, requires a lot of national budget. So what we do is at ICPDR at roof level, we make sure that the coordination is working properly. The countries follow the principle of the solidarity principle. So this is how we limit the damage, I would say, of the flooding. I hope that answers your first question. The second question regarding the countries that are not part of the basin, it's simply because we focus on rivers with catchment areas larger than 4,000 square kilometers and lakes with a surface area larger than 100 square kilometers, plus transnational waters, transitional waters, coastal waters, and transboundary groundwater bodies of what we call basin-wide importance. This is all very technical language, but basically this is the reason why some countries like Switzerland, Albania, Italy are not ICPDR contracting parties, although they share a tiny bit of the basin. Now, regarding your question regarding Germany is a very relevant one, but our German colleagues are extremely active at the ICPDR. It's true that it's Bavaria that has this part of the Danube and not the rest of federal Germany. But since Bavaria is part of the country, plus since Germany shares so many other rivers and is part of so many other basin organizations, they are part of our ICPDR constituency, and we're very happy to have them on board. I hope that answers your question as well.
Thank you very much, Helen. We have 5 more minutes, and I actually I don't see any more hands, but I see some questions in the chat. So the one question is, how does the water governance integrated traditional beliefs and practices into such legislation within the context of this multi-level governance? Is there such aspects in ICPDR?
I think I don't know if we can talk about belief. I think it's more awareness is what we can talk about, and it's definitely integrated. I mean, it's also a lot about communication. Floods make the headlines. They are spectacular. they are this natural phenomenon. We very much have integrated floods also in our motto. The ICPDR has sort of 3 pillars: cleaner, healthier, and safer waters. With cleaner, we're talking about free from, as much as possible, from pollution. Healthier, we're talking about biodiversity, animals and plants, and recreational life. And then with safer, we say safety from flood, as much as possible, avoiding damage from floods. So that's what I would say, that yes, it's very integrated, but like I said, its belief is probably in another river basin, I would say, but in when we talk about the Danube River basin, there is really a very strong connection with the river, and it's an integral part of the life of all citizens. So I think it's much more really awareness and just making sure that everything that you do every day protects your basin.
Thank you very much, Helen. I don't see any more hands. I do see a message here, another one that is just to me, through which, but this is another question, through which platform or institution do you try to reach the public? I mean, it's obviously through the ICPDR, but maybe it's a question from Christina. I don't know if you would like to elaborate on that.
Well, I can elaborate that, yeah, I mean, we have obviously icpdr.org, our website, which is, by the way, being restructured. So I hope that all the persons listening in right now will be witnessing the change. And yeah, and besides that, we use social media, we use a lot of our observers' channels. I mean, civil society is a very, very important way also of getting the information out there, because our partners, our observer organizations are really, like I said, the connective tissue between us at the ICPDR and civil society and every citizen on the basin. So this is what we do, and we try to work on a multi-level communication. So really using every opportunity possible. I mean, you guys at GWP are incredible, that you're doing an incredible job at helping us getting the message out there. I mean, just events like this is an opportunity. So we use every opportunity we have.
Thank you so much, Helen. Is there any last minute? I see in another question. We have 1 minute. So you can answer the last question in 1 minute. How do you source for the funding to implement recommendations in the plan?
Okay, so that's actually an excellent question. We are very grateful to the EU to the Commission for giving us a grant for the plans. But do we know if this grant is going to be available for our next cycle? That's something we don't know. And this is a very, very important question, and this is something that we are going to start asking ourselves. But we have, I think, hopefully enough partners in the basin to try to tackle this problem. But this has been since we started publishing our plans in 2009. This has been our way of doing. We've been funded by the European Commission, lately by a LIFE grant, and we're very thankful to that. So yeah, that's not possible otherwise, or that's at least very difficult to finance from our own means as the organization. So yeah, so I will let you know in the next cycle how it's going to be going.
Yes, thank you very much. But I also understand that you have the funding, in terms of the funding that all the member countries are also committed.
That's funding the Commission. That's funding the work of the Commission. But that's not funding the plans, the printing and at the secretary level. Obviously, at country level, we organize and we finance these activities. But once the plans have to be published and edited, which is what we've done, I've shown you a picture. We also have derivative products. We have something that's being used by the public to get more aware. I mean, the plans are this thick and they are extremely technical. So we produced 2 derivative products that were edited and written by us and layouted by us, and that is something that costs money. So that's also something that we needed funding from, and that was made possible by the LIFE program.
Thank you very much, Helen. A very rich discussion, and thank you everyone who joined this group. And now we see other groups are also finishing up. So we see now everybody who just came back to the plenary. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you had a good time and great time and got some of your questions sorted. I would like to now wrap up the session by inviting each speaker to give the final remarks. So perhaps I will go in the order of the speakers. So starting from Hannah. Hannah, would you like to, how was your experience, and would you like to have your final words?
Yeah, thank you a lot. Well, the experience was that we need probably more time, and there are also technical questions which due to my professional background, I couldn't reply to all of them. Yeah, I would actually bring maybe two things that our discussion was focused a lot on flood management and how we can prepare better for flood management. And actually, for me, it is a sign that this continues to be a very important topic for our stakeholders, although disaster risk discussion, including flood management, is, I would say, is widely discussed. But apart from that, we still have more we still need to put more efforts into this. And then the second topic was that it's not easy to cooperate in transboundary basins, especially when there are potentially no legal arrangements, but it is still possible, and actually technical cooperation can develop further and formalize transboundary cooperation in different basins.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hannah. And yes, of course, the time's never enough. And that's why we have the hub to continue the conversation. So I hope all of you can join. Yes, I would like to invite Helen to give a final remark.
Yeah, thank you, Yumiko. Thank you to your team, to also to the United Nations University, I mean, to everyone for giving us the opportunity to be here and to tell everyone that we are here to get the word out there about the importance of our transboundary basins, and that you know, you can have your say and you should. And finally, I would say that by sharing basins, we are sharing our destinies, and we are all people, and we all thrive for the same thing. So let's continue working together and really getting everyone on board and getting everyone involved.
Thank you so much, Helen. That's true. We all need everyone's effort into this. Now I would like to invite Shawafi. If you can unmute yourself.
I'm trying to.
Yes, now we hear you.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, we discussed interesting things, role of researchers. So a community and a people's baseline will really bridge the gap. We discussed how education and trust can help communities cooperate better. We discussed how conflicts can be engaged, conflicts can be managed better by engagements. And we also discussed a fascinating idea of who reaches whom, whether communities need to reach somewhere or we need to reach out to the communities. I think this whole idea under international law of sovereign talking to sovereign, and village republics or village institutions or local institutions in the hierarchy also need to be recognized sovereigns for transboundary cooperation is a fascinating idea. It's picking up under international law. And I think we have a long way to go, but this discussion is the right start.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A lot of dimensions that I think it need to be addressed. Finally, I would like to invite Nidhi, today's co-chair and the co-organizer. Nidhi, you've worked really hard to put this session together, so thank you so much. Please give us your final words.
Thank you, Yumiko. I hope I'm audible again, but it was an interesting discussion on the role of multi-level governance, which is an emerging paradigm in the governance discourses on resource management, be it transboundary water security, be it climate security, be it disaster risk reduction. So I think we did have a discussion to sort of understand if there is enough understanding of MLG in this context. I know that MLG has been applied in general to the regional integration discourse and other sectoral applications, but for transboundary water governance, it is still an emerging paradigm, which is finding its way in a different context. And I would like to highlight that the case study from Brazil that I always refer in the MLG context to transboundary water security, that Brazil has taken MLG seriously and have reassessed their transnational water agreements in the Rio Basin, and to see the potential, to assess the potential and the challenges of MLG. So there are some success stories that we can leverage from, we can scale them. So these are the couple of points I'd like to make. And I'd also like to point out to all the people who are with us today to join us and keep in this discussion session at the Hub, but also in our event in July, if you want to know more about MLG's application to transboundary water governance.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. As you say, we still have a lot to unpack, so we just got started on the conversation. So as we keep mentioning about this Transboundary Water Knowledge Exchange Hub, we would like to now invite all of you to join the Hub and then continue this post-event discussion. My colleague is showing you now. This is a discussion prompt that was created. Lisa, would you like to just explain about this?
Absolutely. So we are looking forward to see you all in the Transboundary Water Knowledge Exchange Hub. So if you land on the main page, the discussion tab is under discussions. It's quite easy to find. And then you just click on the multi-level governance one, the first in the list. Then you come here, we're inviting you to post some of the feedback. What have you learned during the session? Maybe some comments to the speaker presentations. And then you can add a comment here or an attachment, maybe a screenshot of some slide that you like, etc. We will also be putting on the community materials the slides as well. But please feel free to explore the community. There's much more available. Thank you. Back to you, Yumiko.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And if you join the community, also there's another discussion prompt. Say, please introduce yourself. So please do introduce yourself. I think this is a place for us to get to know each other as well. We've been always having this meeting, but we don't see. We love to see you. Love to know who you are, and I hope this is really for you also to get to know each other and do more direct exchanges. Actually, to get, as Lisa has said, our big question would be, what have you learned today? What are the things that you want to discuss more? So it's a free flow thing, but we also wanted to ask you which maybe like one question that we want to choose from this this hub for discussion. So now if you go to the Mentimeter, I think you will be able to see 3 questions. If you can vote, which question that you're most interested. The first question is about the flood. We heard more about the flood management at Danube River Basin. Are you familiar with efficient flood prevention efforts in your region? So to sharing the experiences on that flood. Second question is, how do you see a multi-level governance approach working in the context of transboundary waters? Third is, do you have a good example of local communities playing a crucial role in preventing floods on the transboundary river? So now you see people are starting to vote. Which one would be the most interesting discussion prompts for you? It seems to be so far, the second question is the most popular one. How do you see a multi-level governance approach working in the context of transboundary water? Number is increasing. So maybe we will use that as also the initial discussion prompt along with a bigger one, but please do feel free to also post any other questions, any other comments related to this topic on the discussion forum that Lisa just has explained. And also now Lisa is posting how do you join the hub. So thank you so much. Here it is. You see also in the chat the link, but this is like a promotion. I think you can also scan this QR code if you have a mobile phone right now with you, directly go into the hub. But you will get all of this information also if you go to our main page of the hub. And then we will also be sharing this with you in the post-event email as well. So I hope you managed to join the hub. Thank you so much. So I would now like to just to do a final promotion. And of course, sorry, as Nidhi mentioned, there is to be another event on the same and on this topic of this water-related disaster, climate, floods, and so on, and that is organized by UNU in July. So we will be also utilizing this hub for the discussion from that event, and that's an online and a hybrid event. So I think you can all join. Thank you so much for this, and I would really now like to say, just to mention, next slide, please. Yes. So please, if you haven't done so, please do sign up for the MOOC. The period is also now extended for another year. So if you are still just starting just now, you still have plenty of time to enroll and complete the course by actually until August 2023. And next slide, please. This MOOC is also available in French. So I told you that the MOOC is translated into 5 languages: French, Russian, Chinese, Portuguese, and Spanish. Those are the translation is on the previous MOOC page, that is on the video. The translation is just on the video. This site, this French MOOC that is launched by the CAPNet, is a complete French. The whole thing is French. The platform is French. Everything is in French. So if you're a French speaker, you might be more interested to go to this one. And we are also trying to also suggest people to come to the hub for both MOOCs, to come to the hub that we just introduced you to do some discussion. So also please feel free to post the questions that you want to discuss in the hub or any other materials. As Lisa has introduced in the beginning, there's a lot of different tabs that you can share. So thank you so much for joining us today and also staying until the end. I would now like to invite everyone to take the group photo. And so if you can all switch on your camera and show your faces to say hello to everyone. And we might be using this group photo for any promotional or materials related to this event or the future events of the GWP. So welcome. Thank you so much, everyone, to join. Very nice to see you all. Some familiar faces and some new faces. Hello, everyone. Great. I see some colleagues from China as well. It's very late in the night. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so the tech host, please let us know when you are done with, maybe we can all wave to each other with some happy smiley face. Great. Mario, are we done?
We're ready,
now?
Miko. Yeah, we are ready. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And I would really like to thank all of you for joining us today. And also particularly our co-organizer, the UNU, Nidhi, done a wonderful job. And the 3 great speakers, Hannah, Helen, and Shawahik. It was a real pleasure to have all of you. And also my colleagues who has been really in the background to make this event happen from GWP, Lisa, Tobias, and Mario, and Milena. Thank you so much for the effort. I hope to see all of you in the Transboundary Water Knowledge Exchange Hub. And then I will see you let's continue discussion. So until then, thank you so much. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Hello,
Water is the source of life,
it's Raymond from Nigeria.
and we all need it to survive.
Thank you. Welcome.
Can't do
Welcome to
without
join.
it,
Thank you for
can't live
joining us.
without it. So we've got to manage it right. Water is